You're listening to Inside of You with Michael Rosenbaum. Ryan Tejas is here.
Yes, I am.
Ryan, this is our last episode of the year. I don't know what that was either. This is our last episode of the year. We're taking a week off for the holidays. Happy holidays to everyone out there. A happy New Year. I certainly appreciate you for listening and supporting the show. We keep doing this. I thought this would be over years ago, Ryan. I never thought we'd be continuing this. And what's great is I promise you even better, not even better, but I won't say better, but great guests in the new year. I mean, I couldn't believe I got some of these people. So it's going to be a great new year. I hope you support the podcast. If you can, support us at patreon.com/insideofyou. There's different tiers. Top tiers get to ask questions. They get to the guests. They get boxes from me and notes and YouTube lives and an occasional Zoom, and there's all sorts of shit. But if you just want to be just support the show, anything helps. A quarter. I mean, anything helps the show.
Less than the price of a cup of coffee.
Less than the prices of a cup of coffee. And you get entertainment if you like the show. Great show today. Also, a little favor. I want to say hey to Tim's Superman of Steel group on Facebook. I want to say thanks. Timmy, rock on, brother. Also, some great, the holidays, people in need. There's obviously foodonfoot.org for the homeless situation, which is unbearable. Ronald McDonald House. There's echoesofhope.org for foster youth that I'm on the board for. Also, what else? ARM, the Animal Rescue Mission, to saving animals, saving doggies. That's what my friend Shira does. And if you want to donate, do it if you can. If not, take care of yourself. Great episode today. Also, a lot of great stuff on the Inside You online store. I mean, there's two Smallville scripts that are signed by pretty much the entire cast. It's a rarity. You'll never get these, and they're mine that I kept and giving money to charity. So there you go. So I like doing that. So there's two. There's Arctic and Veritas signed by everybody. I mean, there's like 8 signatures or something on each one. So check that out. Be a good holiday gift, and you're giving to charity, so that's nice. Tons of other cool merch. I can't even tell you. Funko Pop Flash, Funko Pop Lex, Smallville pictures, Inside You tumblers, shirts, lunch boxes, Smallville lunch, just tons of great stuff for the holidays. And why don't we give a discount code? Should we do a little discount?
Oh, yeah, we should.
We should. Let's do 10% off.
Okay.
Everything in the store.
Okay.
The code will be happy 10. Happy 10. I think that's it. And also, hey, sunspin.com. It's my band. You can get CDs and tons of merch on Sunspin. Our new album's out. We'll be streaming in February, but you can get cool merch, new CDs, autograph calendars, all that stuff for the holidays. Sunspin.com. And I believe that's it. Make sure you listen to Talkville. The new season's coming out with us, me, Ryan, and Welling. Listen to that. We love all the support, and it's fun. I'm having fun doing this, and I hope you guys continue to have fun with us. Right now,
the socials are
Ryan
at Inside of You Pod on Twitter, at Inside of You Podcast on Facebook and Instagram.
That is correct, my friend. And yeah, it's been a groovy year. This is a very special interview. I'm a huge Hall Oates fan. I have been listening to Hall Oates since I was young. They have so many hits, and John Oates wrote a lot of those hits. And he was wonderful. I was a little starstruck. I held it together. I think you're going to really love this. You're going to learn a lot about John Oates and how they got along and his new album. And he's such a talented guy and a really great guy. Super talented and great. So without further ado, let's get inside of John Oates.
It's my point of view. You're listening to Inside of You with Michael Rosenbaum.
Inside of You with Michael Rosenbaum was not recorded in front of a live studio audience. Dude, I gotta tell you, you look damn good, dude.
Well, thanks. I won't take my clothes off, but thanks anyway.
You sure? No, I'm serious, man. My dad is 70.
Yeah.
You look way younger than my dad. Like way.
Yeah, I know. Everybody tells me that. Hey, I owe it to some clean living and some good Italian genes on my mother's side. So,
What kind of clean living do you do?
Well, where does it start? I've been, when I was living in Colorado for 20 years, I was a backcountry skier. I was telemark skier, cross-country skier, biking in the summer, hiking. I started yoga during COVID, which is one of the best things I've ever done. Should have started it 30 years earlier. But, I don't drink or smoke. And my wife keeps me on a short leash when it comes to good food. So, because I can go in the other direction.
Yeah.
I can totally go. I can go sausage, steak, very easy, and I still do, but no, we eat pretty healthy, and I try to stay fit,
Yeah, I think that's my problem is like my diet is not great and I don't have anyone barking at me or helping me. I just have me and my dog. So I wake up and there's no one saying, hey, you don't need a Snickers bar at 10 a.m.
Yeah. And you know what dogs like to eat?
Dogs.
Everything.
It's true. They do like to. Do you have dogs?
No, well, we used to have tons of animals when we lived in Colorado, but now we live in Nashville. We actually don't have any pets right now. So
cool.
Working on a little house dog.
Sweet. I got to tell you, I've interviewed a lot of people. I mean, I'm an actor and all that, but like I've interviewed, Odenkirk and Judd Apatow and, a lot of big actors, and I've never been more excited. I'm not kidding, than interviewing you.
Oh, I thought you were going to say, and none of them are as short as you. That's what I thought you were going to say.
No.
I'm just messing with you.
I know. You can mess with me all you want, but I was really excited about this. I've seen you 10 times in concert. I remember one time you were yelling out, all right, what do you want to hear to some years ago? And I go, adult education. And you go, did somebody say adult education? All right, let's play. And you just played it impromptu. And I was like,
let me give you a little insight into some stagecraft here.
All right.
So basically when, and this is what I found, I might be wrong. There might be some people who are actually more authentic and honest than me, but, what you basically do is what you want to play and you go, hey man, what do you want to hear? And then regardless of what you hear, you go, oh yeah, out of touch, man, that's exactly, let's do it. and that's the one you're going to play anyway. So it doesn't make any difference, but, there's ways around it. I'm sure Bruce doesn't do that because Bruce is so, he's so New Jersey cool that, I'm sure he just actually takes he's got such a repertoire and his band knows every song he's ever written. So, they just tried it out.
Has there ever been a curveball where you're like, let's play something you just haven't played in a while and you're actually kind of nervous about it, or you don't put yourself in those situations?
Not very often. The thing is we have this really amazing problem. We have too many hits. And
it's a problem.
And it's and I say it jokingly, but the truth of the matter is, when we play shows, what we found over the years is that people just want to hear our hits. That's what they come to hear. And I think in a sense, have a professional responsibility to play them. And in addition to that, they're good, they sound great.
Yeah.
And they don't seem to age. So, we squeeze in a couple album tracks here and there during our shows. But basically the Hall Oates show is a hit after hit extravaganza.
It's funny because there's nothing worse. I'm glad you guys have always gotten this right, because a lot of times you go to see bands that you love and for some reason they don't want to play a lot of the hits. They want to tell you what they've been up to. They want to, and it's not that you don't want to hear those, but you really the fans come for the hits, and you guys never let anyone down. That's the thing. It's like hit after hit, or, and it's always a blast. Is it something you guys talk about beforehand? Like, hey, this is what we're going to do?
It's just how it's evolved over the years. We just realized that our show is really, our songs are good, and they've stood the test of time. They don't sound old. They don't sound tired. And look, you go see Elton John, he's going to do basically the same thing. Go see Billy Joel. He's doing the same.
You're right.
It's the fortunate few that have that kind of repertoire that can lean on it, but the release for me is that when I do my solo shows, I do all sorts of stuff. I'm all over the map. I'm doing roots music, obscure blues from the 1930s, so that's, so I'm able to do that. So I don't feel like I'm constrained when I play a Hall Oates show, because I have a total, outlet to do basically whatever I want. So
yeah, and I want to get into like growing up and get into how it all started, but like I gotta say, I was just telling Sarah, your publicist, "Pushing a Rock" is a great song.
Thank you. Yes, it is.
It is. It really is a great song. It's like, a lot of people come out with new songs all the time. They're like, "Hey, this is our new track." And I was watching the video. I was listening to the song, and I was like, "It's catchy. It's got a groove to it. Your voice sounds freaking awesome. I don't know how you still have a great voice like this."
Yeah, well, I do a lot of, on my own when I'm doing my solo shows. Obviously, I'm the lead singer. Obviously, Daryl sings, way more the majority of stuff on the Hall & Oates stuff. So over the years, I guess I've been lucky that I've been able to save my voice in one sense, and the other way is that with my solo shows, I sing all the time. So not only that, since I've been to Nashville, I've developed a relationship with a great engineer, co-producer, and we've worked on my vocal. We've experimented with microphones, we've experimented with effects, we've experimented with certain techniques, and little by little, we've honed in on a really cool way to record my voice.
Can I play a hair of "Pushing a Rock"?
Yeah, man, play more than a hair.
It's so good, guys. Listen to this. Hang on, let's rewind because we'll put this in there. Come on. I mean, if you guys don't all download that right now, it's just grew. I mean, it's a driving song. It's a at-home chilling song. I love it. And
thank you.
Yeah, man, it's so good. And
I'm channeling one of my heroes, Curtis Mayfield, on that stuff right there.
You could totally hear that. And what I love is that this song has a lot of meaning to it. And, you talk about mental health and you're open with that stuff. And this is a lot of what this podcast is. I mean, I have people come here and we don't just want to talk about fluff and we want to get to know people, but I deal with a lot of anxiety and depression. I had a dysfunctional family, and a lot of people just don't know how to express themselves or talk. I finally got my engineer Ryan here in a therapy, and he's doing it. And people really respond to that. My fan base especially, they love hearing about hardships. They love hearing how you face adversity and, how you like this song. It's a rallying cry, you say, to everyone who strives to overcome life's struggles and challenges. It's a universal theme, an important message for our time, riding on a cool groove.
There you go.
I mean,
I said that all by myself.
You did. You came up. Did it take you a minute to be so articulate?
It took me a couple weeks to come up with that, but I'm happy with it.
Is this one of those songs where you could feel when you were singing it, like the lyrics? Those songs tend to be easier, huh?
This song has a crazy story. I mean, first of all, I have never this song was written in 2014 originally. I was doing an album called Good Road to Follow. The theme of the album was a collaborative album where I was going to reach out to people I really liked and respected and wanted to work with them. So, I mean, I had Vince Gill, Ryan Tedder from One Republic, Hot Shell Ray, young pop group, some country people. And so it was really just a great way to step into other people's creative, worlds and see what they do and how they do it. So at the time, I reached out to one of the first people I met in Nashville years ago was Nathan Paul Chapman, who started Taylor Swift off from the time when she was a young teenager to doing demos and up until her first, 3 or 4 albums, which were huge, and she became a megastar. Taylor had moved on around that time. And she was using different producers. And I called Nathan and I said, man, I'm doing this project and I know you're not working so much with Taylor anymore. Maybe we should try something. And he was like, man, he goes, that would be amazing. He goes, I could use like a creative, kind of lift. And I said, and then I started thinking about, maybe he, what kind of struggles he might be going through. Or, and there was things that were going on in my life. And I came up with the Greek, taking a takeoff on the Greek myth of Sisyphus, struggling to push a rock uphill. And I thought it was a great idea. I went to Nathan's house in the same little room where he cut all the Taylor stuff. And I laid the idea on him and he said, man, this is great. Let's do it. So we wrote the song, recorded it back on that album, but I was never really happy with it. I think I kind of let it was kind of my fault because I did the music and it wasn't as good as the lyrics. Let's put it that way. And so over the years, I played it live over the years, and every time I play it, I change it because I just didn't feel comfortable with the original version, but I never locked into the right version. Then during COVID, I revisited the song yet again. And I looked at the lyrics. I said, man, this is just as important now, probably even more pertinent, more on point. And I said, man, I'm going to try to come up with some new music for this. And I used about 98% of the lyrics. They're identical to the original. And then I rewrote the track. And then I called Nathan up and I said, hey, man, I got a surprise for you. Remember that song we wrote back in 2014? Well, I said, I changed it. And I played it for him. And he said, man, this sounds great. He goes, this is the way it always should have sounded. I said, okay. And I got the stamp. I got a stamp of approval. So I went in the studio and cut it this way.
I mean, how rare is that? Nobody does that. It's seldom that you go back to something you wrote 7 years ago or how many years ago and go, you know what? That we just didn't get it right when we put it out the first time. Let's do it again.
Yeah. You know, I have never done it. And I've always felt like personally, philosophically, I guess you'd say, is that a recording is a timestamp, has a timestamp. It's a moment in time. You're capturing something. It's who you were at the time, what you were doing, the players, the engineers, the studio, that thing, all those components that make up on a recording. And I never wanted to mess with that. But on this song, something was telling me that I had to take it to another level. Yeah.
Pushing a rock. And where could people, you can find that on Spotify everywhere, right?
Well, if it's not everywhere, I'm going to be really pissed off.
Inside of You is sponsored by BetterHelp. You know, this holiday season, do something for a special person in your life. You. Give yourself a gift to raise your spirits and not just for the day. Look, the holiday can be a really tough time for all of us. Between managing family dynamics, racing from thing to thing, braving the cold and dark weather, it's normal to feel down. Having someone to talk about how you're feeling and what you can do about it is truly, truly a gift. I've been doing therapy for years. It's an important part of my life. It has become a part of my life. It's become a part of Ryan's life. Mm-hmm. And I don't know what I'd do without it. And if you're just getting started, BetterHelp is the perfect platform. That's why they've been a sponsor for a while, because they see how we talk about mental health, and mental health affects everybody, including celebrities and directors. And it's universal. It's a human thing. And we need people to talk to, someone on the outside that knows how to deal with these things and helps us navigate through life. So I strongly recommend BetterHelp. And so many people, so many patrons and listeners have emailed me, messaged me about how much BetterHelp helps them. As the world's largest therapy service, BetterHelp has matched 3 million people with professionally licensed and vetted therapists, 100% online, plus it's affordable.
Just fill out a brief questionnaire to match with a therapist. If things aren't clicking, you can easily switch to a new therapist anytime. It couldn't be simpler.
No waiting rooms, no traffic, no endless searching for the right therapist.
Learn more and save 10% off your first month at betterhelp.com/inside.
That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/inside. Inside of You is brought to you by Shopify. What would I do without Shopify? Shopify, Ryan, makes it simple to sell to anyone from anywhere. It's an amazing company, and everyone needs to have it, whether you have a small business, whether you have a big business. When I first started, I started selling just a few things. Now it's a business. And it's so easy to use. I always look at these things and I'm like, I don't want to try this because it's confusing. I'm going to need help. It's a waste of time. This is one of the best things you can get. It's so easy to navigate. You could look at analytics and go, oh, this t-shirt's selling really well. I sold 10 in the last month. I'm going to get more of these t-shirts. Oh, look at this. No one likes this. I'm not going to order that again. Or maybe I'll lower my cost for that. It's so easy to use, see what products are doing well, not well, easily respond to people buying things, give them good customer service. Like, hey, sorry about that. We'll return it. You just press something that says refund and you click it and it refunds them. It's easy. It's fun to use. I go into it quite often.
Whether your thing is vintage, teas, or recipes for ghee, start selling with Shopify and join the platform simplifying commerce for millions of your favorite businesses worldwide.
With Shopify, you'll create an online store in your vibe, discover new customers, and grow the following that keeps them coming back.
And thanks to 24/7 support and free libraries full of educational content, Shopify has got you every step of the way.
It's how every minute new sellers around the world make their first sale with Shopify, and you will too. When you're ready to launch your thing into the spotlight, do it with Shopify, the commerce platform backing millions of businesses down the street and around the globe.
Go on. Try Shopify for free and start selling anywhere. Once your store is live, Shopify makes getting paid simple by instantly accepting every type of payment.
Do you want marketing made simple? Shopify removes the guesswork thanks to built-in tools that help you create, execute, and analyze your online marketing campaigns. Running a successful business means getting the insights you need to grow wherever you are. With Shopify's single dashboard, you'll manage orders, shipping, and payments from anywhere. This is possibility, powered by Shopify. Sign up for a free trial at shopify.com/inside, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/inside to start selling online today. Shopify.com/inside. Exactly. And are you releasing more singles as we go on?
The whole idea is that during COVID and from the last year or so, I've been writing like a crazy person, and I have all these new songs. And I said, "Now I got to get them out." And I have never done a totally digital release. This is the first recording I've ever done in my whole life, either with Daryl or by myself, where there's no physical product involved. Now, not to say that there might not be down the road, but. So I reached out to the Orchard, and there's a digital marketing company called Black Box, and I talked about, hey, let me step into the modern world here and just do a digital release. And we came up with a concept that I thought that I had never heard about before, and they told me it's called Always On, which means you're always there, like you're in the digital realm on those digital DSPs. Your music is always there. There's always something out. And you can release something every week or every hour or whatever you want to do. And I said, I never thought of, I always thought in the old school way, you make an album, you got 10 songs or 11 songs, you make an album, you release the album.
Yeah.
They said, no, just keep releasing stuff. So the concept is to release a song every month for the next 6-7 months. And we'll see where that puts me. And then if people want to hear it as a collection, sure, we'll make a collection out of it.
I love that. And you also teamed up with Movember. I read the Rolling Stone interview, which is awesome. The leading international men's health charity ahead of the nonprofit's annual fall campaign where men grow mustaches to raise awareness and funds for men's health issues, focusing on mental health, suicide prevention, and testicular and prostate cancer. I think that's badass. Does that mean you're going to grow it and then you're going to shave it again, or are you going to keep it this time?
What do you think, man? I don't know.
I always liked you with a mustache. I read the Rolling Stone, and I can't grow one. It just looks sloppy. I look like a frat boy or something. Like, I don't know it just doesn't look right with me. Your face fits it. You have a good mustache.
That's only because you've seen me for 40 years with a mustache. You're saying you're facially follically challenged. I don't believe it.
I can grow it. It just doesn't look right. It doesn't stand out. Yours is like, and by the way, I know I read a lot of the article, and I know that you're like, hey, people, you were split on it. You like the mustache, but also people would associate you like, oh, the mustache. And it's funny because my friend John Heater, he's Napoleon Dynamite. Did you ever see Napoleon Dynamite?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, he's one of my best friends, and I always mimic him. I always pretend, and I'm like, geez, you're a freaking idiot. And he's like, he goes, are you talking like me? And I'm like, yeah. He goes, you're just jealous because Lex Luthor doesn't have a distinct voice. Because my character didn't. He just talked like me. So in a way, it's like it's kind of it's you. It's your trademark. It's like people recognize you. They remember you. I think it's a cool thing. I'm sure you had your ups and downs with it.
What happened was at the end of the 80s, there was lots of changes going on for me. We had this insane decade of mega pop stardom, and I was changing as a person, and I wanted to leave that guy who jumps around in the MTV videos. I wanted to leave him behind. I was getting divorced. We didn't have a manager. There was some financial issues. And I just said that the mustache seemed to represent that other guy that I didn't want to be anymore. And I was moving into the 90s, and I just thought I need to change. I need to do something new. And so it was representative of that. That's when I shaved it off. And then moved to Colorado, lived in the mountains for, 20 years, and never really grew it back. It was a thing. But now I'm more evolved now. I can handle it. I don't have that same connection to it. To me, it's just facial hair. So.
Right. When you moved to Colorado, is that when you became friends with Hunter S. Thompson?
Well, we were his neighbor. We were his closest neighbor. I'll tell you a very, very funny story about that. When I met my future wife, we were dating at the time. We weren't married yet, and we were getting very serious. And we were living. I was living in my little condo. I had this little condo out there, and we're thinking about buying a house. And she comes from a farm. She grew up on a farm in Illinois, so she's always had tons of animals and things like that. So she found this piece of property out in Woody Creek, which is right outside of Aspen, and where you had a barn and you could have animals, et cetera, et cetera. So the real estate agent was a really good friend of mine. We go out there and we're standing on the property, kind of looking around. And all of a sudden we hear these 2 shotgun blasts. Boom, boom. And then all of a sudden, and the little barn that we were standing next to had a metal roof. And all of a sudden pellets going all over the metal roof. And I'm like, what the hell's going on? He goes, oh, that's your neighbor. That's Hunter. Don't worry about it. He's fine. And I'm like, okay. I said, wait a second. I said, we're going to move into a house that's literally shotgun distance from this guy.
No.
I think no, I'm serious. I think he knew that someone was going to buy the property, and he was putting a shot across the bow, seriously, metaphorically, of course. Yeah. And I was like, and he said, no, he's great, man. No, it won't be a problem. And so then over the years we became friends, and I'd go up there and watch Monday Night Football with him and the sheriff and all that. And he was, if he liked you, he was fantastic, and he liked being Hunter. He liked the slouch hat with the cigarette holder and the motorcycle and the big glass of, gin or whatever he was drinking. But deep down inside, he was he's from Kentucky. He was a Southern gentleman, and we didn't see a lot of each other, but we went to his funeral, the one that Johnny Depp put on,
right,
where they shot his ashes out of a cannon. We were there for that.
Wow,
and it was freaking crazy. So yeah, even now we still have our house there, and if you drive out our lane, you drive directly into his driveway.
It just seems like it'd be hard to talk to someone like that because they're kind of out there and philosophical. Or was he more down to earth that you can easily carry a conversation once you got to know him a little bit?
Well, you fucking talk like this. God, that's all right. He mumbled all the time. It's funny. I was asked to write this article for a magazine in Colorado or Aspen. And what had happened was, in that little barn that we were thinking of buying, his red land shark, the one from Fear and Loathing,
mm-hmm,
was in that barn. And I said to the real estate agent, I said, why is this guy's car in someone else's property? He goes, oh, that's Hunter's. And he had put a padlock on the door, and it wasn't his property. And he said, well, this is Woody Creek. This is not like other places. He goes, you'll figure this out. So when the time came, we were going to use this little barn as a kind of a guest house. We were going to convert it to an apartment, live there while we, built the rest of the house. And so the keys were in the car. So I jump started it. And because I went to his house, knocked on his door, he never answered. So I just literally pulled the car straight up in front of his kitchen door and just left it there. And 20 years went by. He never said a word to me about it. I think he just thought it appeared, just like appeared in front of his house.
That's funny. What the fuck is that? All right.
Yeah. No, it was great. We
that's cool.
Yeah, like
that's
I said,
cool.
We'd go up there and watch Monday Night Football, and I got all kinds of stories.
Yeah, we'll have to talk about those sometime because I am interested in that. Now, you grew up in Pennsylvania, right?
Yeah, right outside of Philadelphia.
And did you have a pretty normal upbringing? Were your parents there? Were they cool? Were you?
Yeah,
you did. You had a pretty.
I did. I had a very, very solid upbringing. My parents were together their whole lives, and it was a good upbringing, I have to say. And I think that's why it was even more traumatic at the end of the 80s when I went through this kind of change of life, and I had all these challenges with divorce and all that and money. It was even more traumatic for me because I had never experienced anything like that. I'd never experienced any kind of turmoil or upheaval. So it really hit me hard. And that's when I, did some therapy and started to look at strategies on how I was going to go forward. And, and that led me to really moving to Colorado.
Inside of You is brought to you by NHTSA. Look, you're hanging out with some friends and putting back a few drinks. A few becomes a few too many. And as the evening comes to an end and people start to head out, you think of calling for a ride. Nah, you live nearby. You can make it home okay. It's no big deal. What are the odds you'll get pulled over anyway? And even so, what's the worst that could happen? Your insurance goes up, you lose your license, you lose your job, you total your car, you kill someone. Everyone knows about the risks of driving drunk. The results are tragic and often deadly. However, that still doesn't stop everyone from getting behind the wheel while under the influence. That's why police officers are out there right now looking for impaired drivers on our roads to save lives. So if you think you're okay to drive after a few drinks, think again. Play it safe and plan ahead to get a ride. It only takes one mistake to change your life or someone else's forever. Drive sober or get pulled over. Paid for by NHTSA. Wow. And you went, I didn't know you were a wrestler. I wrestled a little too. I wrestled in 7th and 8th grade. And at ninth grade, it was just too difficult. The coach was too hard. So I played something else. I got into a different sport. But you were a good wrestler. You went on to wrestle for Temple University.
Yeah, I was pretty good. We had a great, the school I went to, the high school, was a great wrestling school. We had a number of state champions. I won a couple championships, league championships, and regional, district championships, things like that. But I wasn't that good. But it was, you're right. Wrestling's like probably the hardest sport you can do.
Man.
You have to starve yourself. You have to be incredibly fit, and yeah, there's a lot to it. But you know what? It helped me in good. It kind of gave me some strong bones and connective tissue.
Could you still throw the cross-face cradle?
I can do all that stuff.
You could still do it?
But I don't know if I'd be able to wake up the next day.
It's the most exhausting sport there is. A minute wrestling feels like the end of the world. That's it. You're done.
Yeah, one time, I think it was in the late 70s, I went back to my high school because I was really good friends with the coach. He was a mentor to me. And I went back to the high school and I made the mistake of like trying to wrestle with the kids. And I got my ass kicked. And I was like, okay, I realized, I'm too far out now. It's
yeah, it hurts too much. How old were you when you were playing music? When did you get into music? Was that an early age?
I started when as soon as I could talk. I have a recording of me singing Here Comes Peter Cottontail at 4 years old. And then I have a recording of me at about 8 or 9 singing All Shook Up, the Elvis song. That we did in Coney Island in one of those recording booths, where you put a coin in, you sing, and then the record comes flying, sliding out. So I always sang. My mom was a bit of a stage mom. She got me up in front of people at a very early age. So I made my first money at the Jersey Shore singing Volare in Italian when I was like, probably 9 or 10.
Wow.
I won a talent contest. I got $20. I thought, hey, this is the way to do it. This works.
Did you think back then, what age was it? You're like, you know what? I want to do this. I think I could do this. It doesn't seem like it happened that early, right? That you were like, this is my career. This is what I'm going to get into.
I never thought about it. I just kept doing it. I joined a band in 7th grade, was in the same band through junior high and high school. Then in college, the band finally broke up, and that's when I met Daryl. I just, the way I looked at it is people never really stopped clapping. So I kept doing it.
You probably told the story, but do you remember the day you met Daryl and something clicked?
Yeah, I remember exactly. He had a group called the Temptones. I had a group called the Masters. We both had singles out. It was in the summer of 1967. In Philadelphia, they were both being played on the same radio stations. So I was aware of him. He was aware of me. We were invited independently to go to this record hop, which was what DJs, a teenage dance basically. And while we were waiting backstage, there was a gang fight, and so broke out in the crowd. And so his band and my band, we went in a service elevator down to the street, and that's how we met. And then we were both going to Temple University. We kept seeing each other around. Then he lost a guitar player. My band broke up. Two of the guys got drafted to Vietnam. And I joined his group as a guitar player. That group broke up, and he and I started hanging out.
Jeez, just by happenstance. If that elevator, if that fight didn't break out, you probably wouldn't have met that night. There'd be no Hall Oates.
Yeah, well, a lot of things happened. I mean, if I wouldn't have picked Temple University to go to college, I mean, I had a bunch of other colleges I was looking at. It was just, hey, things, you never know how things are going to work out.
Who was the more outgoing of the two of you when you met? Were you both kind of outgoing, ladies' men, kind of just having fun? Everything was simple then?
Everything was simple then, that's for sure. It's not the same as it is now, that's for sure. No, we were hippies. We just kind of tripped around and did things. And Philadelphia had this little hippie community downtown, and we were part of that. And so, I was playing in a blues band. Daryl was doing some studio work, and then eventually he played in a bar band. And none of the things that we did independently seemed to click. And then the crazy part is that after I graduated from college in the spring of 1970, I wanted to go to Europe. So I had a motorcycle and I had a few other things. I think I had $400, and I had a backpack and a guitar, and I went to Europe and I hitchhiked around Europe for 4 months. And during that time, I sublet my apartment to Daryl's sister and her boyfriend. And so when I got back in October, after being gone for 4 months, I went to my apartment and there was a padlock on the door because they didn't pay the rent.
Shit.
I had nowhere to go. So Daryl was living, not very close, a few blocks away. So I just put my backpack and guitar back on, walked down the street, knocked on his door and said, "Hey man, your sister kind of screwed me up here. I got nowhere to live." And he said, "Oh, don't worry about it. Why don't you just go upstairs and sleep on the couch up there?" And so I went up to the top floor where his electric piano was. And then I slept on the fold-out couch, and he'd come up, he'd start playing piano, and I'd pull out my guitar, and we start. Next thing you know, we were writing songs, and there you go.
It was that easy. It was that just messing around. And all of a sudden,
we had known each other for 3 years prior to that, but we hadn't really worked together.
And what did you know you had something special, or was it just two guys having a good time?
No. In fact, we made a first recording at the Temple University radio studio because we could get in for free. And we did this tape of a song that we wrote. It was so bad. It was horrible.
What was it? What was it called?
Oh, it was horrible. It was some stupid hippie dipshit song. And we both looked at each other and went, let's just hang out. This is never going to work. Wow. Because his voice was very high and pristine. My voice was kind of, low and rough, and it sounded horrible. And little by little, I guess I don't know what, he went this way and I went this way, and we kind of figured out a way of singing together.
And what was the first song that you go, holy shit, this is better than that recording we did at Temple University. This is something cool.
We had, the first album we did was just a collection of stuff songs that I had, songs that he had. It wasn't really conceived like a record, but we got a contract, so we made the record for Atlantic Records. And it was really the second album, the Abandoned Luncheonette album, where it really came together. And that's what She's Gone was on. She's Gone was on that album. And that song was, I call that the perfect storm. That's the perfect creative storm. Everything about that was right. It was the right producer in the right studio with the right song that we had written, with the right players. Everything about it was just perfect. And, it's just one of those things. Produced by Arif Mardin, one of the world's great producers, one of the greatest producers of all time. That's Bernard Purdy playing drums, one of the, probably one of the greatest R&B drummers of all time. It's just, like I said, it was the perfect storm. It was the right people, the right circumstance, and we had written the right song.
And at first it was just your guitars and singing the song. That's it.
Well, when we wrote it, it was I was playing acoustic guitar and Daryl was playing electric piano, and that's how we wrote it. We wrote it in about an hour and a half.
You wrote that song in an hour and a half.
Oh yeah, if that. I had gotten stood up on a date for New Year's Eve, and so while I was sitting in the apartment by myself, I just picked up the guitar and I thought, well, she's not coming. She's never gone. And I said, well, she's gone. And I started doing this like folky, like Cat Stevens kind of thing. And it was like, she's gone. And I was kind of messing around with that for a while. And then the next day, Daryl came back to the house, to the apartment, because we were sharing an apartment. And I played it for him, and he sat down at the piano, and he said, "Oh, that's cool." And he started going, boom, boom, dun, 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 which is the piano riff that you hear at the beginning of the song. And we just wrote it, and we just looked around the apartment. And I remember, like, in the course of writing, just walking into the bathroom, and then it was toothbrush, all,
hanging on the stand or whatever.
Yeah, it's all, frayed, and I probably was using the same toothbrush for 4 years or something. But and it was just that, just taking these, snapshots of life, of loss and loneliness, and just putting it together the right way,
And so you go back and forth like you did on numerous songs, where you'd come up with a little line and you go, "How about this?" And you just go back and forth with like different lines.
Yeah, exactly. And I can't remember, who came up with it, but it really doesn't matter at this point. But that line, "Everybody's high on consolation," that's like, you think about that line, that's a really good line.
Yeah.
And that was the kickoff. Once that line, that's the beginning of the song, was like, okay, now we know what this is about. Let's go. And, we just wrote it.
You know what else could have worked? Because I always used to mess up the lines when I'd sing it. "Everybody's high on constellation."
Oh, I know. And that's what everybody thought it was, of course.
Of course, like astrology.
just like, that was, well, we were hippies. So, maybe astrology thing could have worked, but constellation's way better.
Constellation's way better.
But just like people think it's "kiss on my lips," it's "kiss on my list." It's not. Your kiss is not on my lips. Your kiss is on a list of the best things in life. It doesn't necessarily. It is the best thing.
I love that you're talking about this, because it's like stuff that I'm like, I grew up on. I'm like, how did all this happen? Because I have a band, and I had a band, and we sold about 80 million records less than you guys sold. So
nice setup. That's a good one.
And I know that it was very difficult for me. We just always, I don't know any band that hasn't gotten in fights, hasn't gotten like, "No, this is cooler. No, this is cooler." And it would get, some of these fights were explosive. Like, I'd be like, "Fuck you, get the fuck out of my house. I fucking don't." And this was a band that was nothing. So I can't imagine the pressures, and your guys are making money and you're writing songs together. There's egos, and I don't know how you lasted as long as you did, because I don't know one band. I was watching the Beatles documentary, and then one day, what's his name? George Harrison just goes, "Okay, well, I think I'm going to quit the band now."
Yeah.
Like, what?
Yeah, well, that wasn't a good career choice, but but he did just fine. George did just fine. Now, I think Daryl and I both are very non-confrontational people, and we would rather, kind of just go our separate ways and just let things simmer down, and then figure out a way around it. It's really amazing that we've been able to stay together this long.
Yeah.
And we've been together for over 50 years, and the way I look at it, it's like 50 years is long enough to do almost anything. So, at this point now, we if we play a show again, which we will at some point, great. And if we don't, well, that's okay too.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
So you've learned to like go, "Hey, there's been ups and downs. There's been all this stuff. But like at the end of the day, we did something great, and
it's a miracle as far as I'm concerned. It's a miracle that we were able to create what we created, and to stay together long enough and have those amazing experiences in life, and traveling around the world and playing Live Aid and We Are the World, and, all these, the Apollo Theater, and all these like kind of, these watershed, or not watershed, but, these moments, these like iconic moments, and so, what more do you want? What more do you want in life?
Yeah. Were you ever like in a not a good place, and you're both on stage and you have to pretend you love each other, and you're like, "God, I fucking don't want to be here. Neither does he."
Yeah. Yeah. Last week.
Are you serious? How does that, no, but what do? You have to just move on, right?
Yeah. You know what? It's called being a pro. look, there's plenty of groups out there that don't like each other necessarily.
Oh,
Tons
yeah. All of them.
Okay. And you know what? So whether it's, it may be greed, it may be professional pride, it may be, it may be because you owe the next car payment and you can't figure out how to do it. Who knows what the motivation is? It doesn't matter. I think there's a lot to be said for being a pro. You can just get past the other crap and just do it.
Yeah. I talked about I deal with anxiety and stuff and I have some, I won't mention his name, but I have a friend who he's a huge musician. He's played one of the biggest bands in the world. You know him. You probably worked with him. I won't say his name. I love him to death, but I say, I mean, how do you do it? You're in a stadium with 50,000 people and aren't your nerves going wild? Don't you have anxiety? He goes, I take like a quarter of a Xanax before every show. That's what he does. Have you done something like that? Did you ever drink before you played? Did you ever get?
Yeah, I have never been a big drinker. I don't drink at all now. But even when I was drinking, I realized very quickly, and actually it was mostly what I discovered when I was doing my solo shows. If I had a drink, I was sloppier. I wasn't as accurate, especially with playing. My vocals were okay, but my ability to play the guitar was not as good. So little by little, I realized that, it's just, I'm better when I'm sober. It's as simple as that.
Do you get anxiety? Have you dealt with anxiety in your life?
Oh yeah. Well, but anxiety from outside sources. Most of my anxiety, I finally realized that, and now that I can look back on my life and, with a little more perspective, most of my problems, in fact, all of my problems and anxiety had to do with me being trusting and having people who I thought I could trust not be truthful and not be honest. That has been the source of all my issues. I try to be a nice person. I try to, I try to treat people fairly. I try to be as honest as I can, in a really dishonest business.
Yeah.
If you know anything, obviously you're in the entertainment business, it's a shit show.
Yeah.
So, but that's where my issues are. My issues are trusting people and having them stab you in the back and having them not be who you were hoping they would be, or at least giving you the courtesy of being straightforward. That's a big issue for me.
Yeah. I understand that. It's the worst business to be in when you're looking for that, because I come from humble origin where, I grew up in a small town and, I come out here and you want to believe everybody. You want to think that everybody has your best interest. Well, they all never have your best interest. It's what's for me. How do I benefit from this person? And, in your lifetime, if you meet a handful of people that you could really trust and know it's unconditional, the love and the, reciprocation, you win. But you have to weed out. A lot of times you have to go through those things, as you know more than I do. What was the hardest time in your life, really the end of the 80s, sort of like reinventing yourself, going through a divorce? What was it how empty or how low did you actually get? Because I know you talk about mental health, but how desperate did you become?
Well, I talk about it in my book. I have an autobiography called Change of Seasons. And I talk about it in the book. I describe it. Yeah, there was an issue. There was an issue with some money and things like that. And it was kind of I had, and I'll just say it again. I'd been called down to a meeting on Wall Street with some money managers who, here again, I had been trusting for years. And I found out that I didn't have what I thought I had. And it was kind of a wake up call. And I remember, kind of being shocked. And it was kind of an after hours meeting in this big Wall Street, high rise. And I remember the head of the firm, this much older guy, he walked me out to the elevator and he could tell I was, pretty shaken up. And he said, look, I know this is, you probably think this is, the worst thing that's ever happened to you. He goes, but I'm going to tell you, I think it's going to be the best thing that ever happened to you. And with that, the elevator door opened. I got in the elevator and went downstairs. So I got in a cab and I head up to my apartment in the Village. And at the time, I was separated from my wife. We were about to get divorced. And so I gave her all the furniture. There was nothing in the apartment except a TV and a bed. It was very depressing. But before I got there, I was in the cab. And as I was riding uptown toward my apartment, I started getting pains in my chest. And I thought, and I had never had experienced anything like that. You got to remember, I was in my 30s.
Yeah.
And I went, oh my God, I'm going to have a heart attack. I'm going to die in the back of this cab. And I said, this is fucked up. I said, die by myself in the back of a cab at night in New York City. And I got pissed off. And I said, I'm never going to let this happen to me. But I had pains in my chest. Look, spoiler alert, it didn't happen, just so you know. I mean, I want to let you know. But anyway, I went up to the apartment, and there it was, this like really depressing, dark apartment with no furniture. And I'm standing there going, this is fucked up. I said, I'm out. I don't know what I'm going to do, but it's not going to be this. And that's when the whole thing started. That's when I started therapy. That's when I made the decision to leave New York. I sold everything I owned, which was considerable. I had a lot of, as they say, I might not have had a lot of cash in the bank, but I had a lot of shit.
Right.
You know, I had apartments and a house in Connecticut. I had an airplane. I had vintage car collection. I sold everything, literally wholesaled everything. And I just moved to Colorado and started over again. That's where I met my future wife. I had a house, built a house, had a kid, you know, blah, blah, blah.
You know, it's amazing. You think about that stuff and you look back, and it's like there's nothing more important than your health. I mean, they always say health is wealth. I mean, in the end, it's like money and all these other things, they don't matter. They really don't matter as they make life easier, of course, and they make, you know, but if you're not happy with money, you're not going to be happy, you know, or if you're not happy without money, you're not going to be happy with money. Right.
if you're not happy with money, you're probably not going to be happy.
You knew what I was fucking talking about. Jesus Christ. But everything got better.
One of the best things I've heard in a long time.
Yeah.
So
Well, you know, if you hang around me long enough, I put my foot in my mouth quite frequently.
Yeah, good. I love it.
What's more important to you? The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame or Rock and Roll Songwriters Hall of Fame?
Songwriters Hall of Fame, no doubt about it. Because, I mean, look, don't get me wrong. Being in Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is a great career move. It's fantastic for your career.
Right.
But if we wouldn't have written the songs we wrote, we wouldn't be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Right.
So to be, and really, I like to, you know, I'm a history buff. I love the history of American pop music, you know, dating back to the early days of radio and the record player, you know, and I, you know, I'm a little bit of a self-styled, you know, music historian when it comes to that. And to be included in this great, you know, honestly, a great pantheon of American songwriters, you know, I mean, you're talking about George Gershwin, you're talking about Cole Porter, the Brill Building, you know, all these amazing, you know, I mean, I think American pop music is one of America's greatest export to the world. There's no negative to it. Everything about it is positive. It's one of the few things I think that we can honestly stand behind and say that we've never had a problem with American pop music influencing people around the world.
Yeah.
So, you know, to be a part of that exclusive club is pretty heavy duty.
You ever fuck up on stage? I mean, royally, like you just butchered a song in front of 50,000 people?
No, but I pissed my pants once and I had black pants, so it didn't matter. So I got through the
You
set.
did? You pissed your pants?
Years ago, I drank way too much espresso before I went on stage.
And you just were like, I can't leave, so I'm just going to piss myself?
Well, I wasn't about to stop the show.
I love how honest you are with that. You know, it's funny. I remember doing.
Hey, listen, I am so way past all this stuff. I don't care anymore.
I love it. I remember this director. He's a good friend of mine, Greg, and he was directing an episode of the show I was on. And I was like, hey, listen, man, here's what I think I should do. He's like, I go, dude, what's the matter with you? Because I go, oh my, I looked down and he had just pissed him. He wasn't wearing black jeans. He was wearing beige. He had pissed himself. He's like, I go, Greg, you just pissed yourself. I know. I have to go. It was just, oh man. But I've shit myself, so we don't have to get into that. So we're human. We're human. Anyway, what's the one concert you look back and say that was the most amazing thing I've ever been a part of? That one concert.
The Apollo Theater with Eddie Kendrick and David Ruffin, when we brought Eddie and David out and reprised the Temptations medley. that we, you know, Daryl and I were both Temptations fans. Daryl was actually friends with the original group. And when I first met Daryl, one of the first things we did was we went to New York City and we went to the Apollo Theater and we hung out in the dressing room with the Temptations. This was probably 68 or 67. And we sat in the front row and watched the Temptations at the Apollo Theater, the original group with Eddie Kendrick, David Ruffin, you know, Paul Williams, and, you know, Melvin Franklin and Otis Williams. So then we were asked to reopen the Apollo after it had been renovated. And it was a big deal to play the Apollo. And so we asked Eddie and David if they'd come and sing those songs with us. And we were on stage, we did the steps, we did the choreography, and it was like, honestly, it was like tripping. I thought it was like I could see myself from above. It was like and you know, people talk about out of body experience. It sounds all hippy dippy and everything.
Right.
But honestly, it was an actual out of body experience. I remember almost as if I was looking at myself doing it in real time.
You know what? Out of all the songs you've written, I mean, Sarah Smile, she's gone out of touch. Make My Dreams, I Can't Go For That. Man Eater, Adult Education, Pushing a Rock, all these songs. What is the one song that you're like, I love that song more than any other song? I mean, I know they're all your babies, but if there's one you had to choose, like this is the song that I love the most.
Well, you know, I'll always say She's Gone because it's a song that put us on the map. It's a song that started our whole career. So how can you not, you know, choose that one? But I have to say, and I know, you know, sounds like shameless self-promotion, but Pushing a Rock is a really important song for me. I think I've defined myself on this song as a singer, as an artist, as a producer, more than any other song I've ever done as a solo artist. So it's extremely important to me.
I'm going to post the video too of the song once this interview comes out, like separately, because I love it so much. I think the song is just super, and your vocals and it just feels good. It's such a great song. I had no idea you co-wrote one of my favorite songs, Electric Blue by Ice House. Dude,
I did.
That is one of the best songs.
It is a good one. It's a good one. Yeah.
Electric Blue. You know that song, Ryan? On my knees. I'm sorry, I don't have to sing it to you. You know the song.
Yeah.
I'll
tell you.
Yeah, go ahead.
A good story. You want to hear a story about that?
Please.
You got me going now. So, all right. I ran into Iva Davies, who's the lead singer and lead person, basically, in the group Ice House. I ran into him at a hotel in New York City that we were both staying in. And, you know, I knew Ice House. I was a fan of the band, and we started talking. And I was kind of in a little bit of downtime. I wasn't really working too much at the moment. And he said, "Hey, would you ever want to come to Australia and, you know, maybe we could write something?" And I said, "Oh, I love Australia. Let's do it." So he brought me to Sydney. And we hung out, and we were there, you know, and I was only going to be there for about, you know, a week, 5 days. And we were messing around and things weren't clicking. And it was kind of like, you know, I was getting a little nervous because, you know, he brought me all the way down there and I felt like I wasn't delivering in a sense. And he was it was the beginning of when people were just starting windsurfing. And so he was like into windsurfing, and so we were both frustrated. He said, "Oh, come on, let's just go to the beach, man. We'll clear our heads, whatever." And he goes, "I'm going to go windsurfing. You can go hang out on the beach." So yeah, great. So we would go to the beach, and I don't know if you recall, but back in those days, and all the beaches were topless in Australia. And so I was sitting on the beach. He was out there windsurfing, and so I'm sitting there, and this gal comes walking up toward me, and she's topless. But she had these incredibly blue eyes. I was trying my best just to look at her eyes, at her face, to keep my eyes focused on her face. And it just popped into my head. Electric Blue. I went, "Oh, okay." And then when we went back to the studio afterwards, I said, "Look, I got this idea." And I told him, he laughed, you know, and I said, "Let's write a song about this girl's eyes that just penetrate you, you know." And that was it. We wrote it in like 2 hours.
That is amazing. You know, I was watching the Eagles documentary, and Don Henley and Glenn Frey were talking. They were at a bar one night, and he goes, "You look at that girl over there, man. She's trouble. She's got lion eyes."
There you go.
And that's how it's amazing how a little thing, whether it's a toothbrush, an animate object, whatever, can just trigger like an idea. That's amazing. Yeah. Another song that I love is Las Vegas Turnaround.
Yeah.
You wrote that.
Yes, I did.
That's one of my favorite songs, man.
Thanks. Yeah, and that song was inspired by Sarah Allen, who later became Daryl's girlfriend. And, they were together for many years, and she co-wrote a bunch of songs with us, and she's the inspiration for Sarah Smile. But at the time, she was she was an airline stewardess.
Right.
Her and her girlfriend walked by. I was just sitting on the steps, and we started talking, and we started, what do you do? We're flight attendants or stewardesses at the time. And I said, what are you going to do? And one of them said, oh, we're going to do a Las Vegas turnaround. I said, well, what's that? I never even heard of it.
I didn't either.
That's when you get a plane full of people, you fly out to Las Vegas and you just load up the plane again and turn around and go back. You don't spend the night. And I was like, wow. Okay. And so that was all I needed to hear.
You can look back right now, obviously, and go, wow, I'm proud of what I've done. Look at all the shit I've done. You could actually, a lot of people, it's hard for them to take a step back and go, look at this. I have a beautiful home. I have a beautiful wife. I have this music that has inspired people. Are you able to do that? Was there a time where it was hard to look at what you were doing, step on the outside?
Well, I think in the last few years, moving to Nashville, our son went off to college. My wife and I became empty nesters. We started to do things, travel around a little bit more, taking more time off from the touring grind, not just staying with that constant, touring grind. Life has changed, and I like it. I have to say that it's a good, I think I'm settling into a good, rhythm, at this point.
I love that. All right, this is called Shit Talking with John Oates. These are my patrons. It's rapid fire. This is it. These are my patrons who give a lot to the podcast. Go to patreon.com/inside of you and rapid fire. These are the top patrons. Here you go. Little Lisa, what is one of your favorite memories performing on stage besides the Temptations?
You mean besides pissing my pants?
Besides pissing your pants. Is there a memory on stage?
I would just say, playing the classics. The Madison Square Garden, the Budokan in Tokyo, that sort of thing. Doing these firsts, especially early in your career, that's the kind of thing that stands out to me.
Do you constantly, still to this day, get recognized every day?
It depends on where I am and what I'm doing. Like living in New York City, it wasn't a big deal because nobody cares in New York. And then living in Aspen, Colorado, nobody seems to care either because there's a lot of celebrities live there. Now I live in Nashville and there's a lot of celebrities live here too. So it's, go to Whole Foods and no big deal.
Do you like it when people come up and say, oh my God, can I get a picture? Or you're fine with it?
Yeah, I don't mind. I don't mind as long as people are nice,
Don't interrupt your meal.
Yeah, exactly.
Kelly S, I remember as a little kid thinking the album cover for H2O was awesome. Which album cover was your favorite?
Wow, that is a good album cover. That picture was taken by a very famous fashion photographer named Hiro, a Japanese fashion photographer. He did a lot of Vogue covers and things. That was a cool album cover. I like, I think The Abandoned Luncheonette is probably one of my favorite album covers. The girl I was dating at the time, she was an art student in Philadelphia, and she did that as a silkscreen.
Wow. Patty K, do you remember singing at Naval Air Station, Willow Grove, Pennsylvania? I worked security there.
Yep. Yes, I do remember that because I met the commander from the F-14 wing, and he was going to give me a ride in an F-14, which I was very excited about. And it never happened because the Iraq War started right after that.
Oh, Jesus. Ray H, if you could only listen to one artist for the rest of your life, who would it be?
Oh, boy, that's hard. Joni Mitchell.
Oh, what's your favorite Joni song?
The album Blue is the greatest album ever made as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. She actually lived right down the corner from where I live. Right there. I'm on Laurel Canyon where all the, the hippies live and all that. Yeah. The Country Canyon store.
All you hippies like to hang out there, right?
Yeah. There's a lot Danny Hutton from Three Dog Night still lives there. Frank Zappa lived around the corner. Carole King lived up the street.
Yeah, yeah.
It's pretty cool.
That's classic.
It is classic. Last question, David H. Has there been a time that you were just gobsmacked when you started to play with someone?
Yeah. But when I was doing a lot of folk and blues, even before I met Daryl, or before Daryl and I were working together, I got to meet and play a little bit with Doc Watson and his son Merle in the basement of the Main Point Coffee House in Philadelphia before their show. That was a high moment for me. That was a big deal.
Wow. Dude, this has been extraordinary. 21 albums sold 80 million units worldwide. Most successful duo of all time. Hall of Famer, Songwriters Hall of Fame, 10 #1 records. An awesome freaking song, Pushing a Rock, is out now. You guys got to download it, please. It won't let you down. It's truly amazing. And what's your handle on Instagram so people could follow you?
John Oates Official.
John Oates Official. Are you on Twitter as well?
Yeah, I have no idea, but I am.
I am. Dude, this has been extraordinary. I can't wait to see you, whether it's solo or with Daryl again. If you guys go on tour, this has been like a dream come true. I couldn't thank you more than this.
Thanks, man. Well, it'd be great to meet you one of these days. We'll try to make that happen.
I would love that, man. Take care of yourself. Keep making great music and keep up with the mental health stuff and keep the mustache, for God's sakes. Take it easy, man. Thank you so much, John.
Appreciate you. See you.
Inside of You is brought to you by NHTSA. Did you know that driving high is considered driving under the influence? That's right. Driving under the influence of marijuana is against the law in every state, even in states where marijuana is legal. That means driving high could get you a DUI. And if you think law enforcement officers can't tell when you're driving high, you're wrong. Your friends can tell, your coworkers can tell, even your parents can tell. Everyone can tell. So what makes you think that law enforcement officers don't know when you're driving high? Driving under the influence of marijuana can slow your response time and change how you perceive time and speed. So even if you think you're fine to drive when you're high, you're not. Because the bottom line is, if you feel different, you drive different. And driving high is driving under the influence. So remember, drive high, get a DUI. Paid for by NHTSA. There you have it. John Oates, legend. I hope you enjoyed that. We don't have musicians very often, Ryan.
No, and we should do it more often.
We should do it more often. I'm going to try. I want to get Debbie Gibson on. Paula Abdul and I have talked.
Oh.
She has a story.
Okay.
She's going to come on the podcast.
Okay.
And that's really it. I just wish you guys the very best. We're going to read the top tier patrons off, those folks that give back to the podcast the most, patreon.com/inside of you. And I hope you have a really good holiday, Ryan. I know you're going to see your family, and it's important. You're close with your family. They're not too far away. It's an easy flight.
I might drive it this time because I didn't get the flight in time.
I think you have some peace and quiet. You in the road, a man in the road.
I do enjoy it. I've been doing it all my life. This trip up to Sonoma County. It's I'm used to the drive.
What's the address? Go visit Ryan. Thanks for all the support, all the love. If you didn't listen to the intro, you should. There's a lot of great stuff in there. There's a 10% off discount for the Inside of You online store. Great new stuff that's going to go fast. I'm getting new space ship keys from Smallville, autographed, so those will be up again. We're getting some more of those, and that's all I have to say. We'll be doing a stage it in January. But happy holidays, happy New Year. I love you all. Thank you. Here are the top tiers. Couldn't do it without you. Nancy D, Leah S, Sara V, Little Lisa, Yukiko, Jill E, Brian H, Niko P, Robert B, Jason W, Sophie M, Kristen K, Raj C, Joshua D, Jennifer N, Stacy L, Jamal F, Janelle B, Kimberly E, Mike E, Eldon Suprema, 99 more, Santiago M, Chad W, Leanne P, Janine R, Maya P, Maddie S, Belinda N, Chris H, Dave H, Sheila G, Brad D, Ray H, Tabitha T, Tom N, Liliana A, Talia M, Betsy D. Did we say Betsy D already? I'll say it again. Chad B, I love her. Chad B, Dan N, Big Stevie W, Angel M, Rhiannon C, Corey K, Dev Nixon, Michelle A, Jeremy C, John B, Brandy D, Camille S, Joey M, Eugene and Leah, Nikki G, Corey, Patricia, Heather L, Megan T, Mel S, Orlando C, Caroline R, Christine S, Sarah S, Eric H, Shane R, Emma R, Andrew M, Zatoichi 77, Andreas N, Oracle, Karina N, Amanda R, Jen B, Kevin E, Stephanie K, Lena 82, Jarrell, Billy S, Jam and J, ADHG rocks, Todd. It sure does. Luna R, Cindy E, Kate F, Mike F. Could not do this podcast without you. I hope you are safe. I hope you are good to yourself. Most importantly, take care of yourselves. It's going to be a better year. Every year, it's just you got to look for the light, man. The light at the end of the tunnel, Ryan.
Yeah. The good one.
The good light. Don't go into the dark light. All right. From Michael Rosenbaum here in the Hollywood Hills of California.
Oh, you're Michael Rosenbaum. I am Ryan Taves.
You're Ryan Taves.
That's right. That's
and
right. Jesus.
we love you. A little wave to the camera.
What a year.
What a year, guys. Lots of great stuff coming up. So I hope you stick with me. And hopefully I'll do this for another year at least.
Hey, the power's in your hands.
Power's in your hands.
You could end it whenever you want to.
Yeah, well, I couldn't. A lot of people would be unhappy, I think. Would you guys be unhappy?
Probably. Then don't.
I'll try not to.
You won't have to.
I just have to, make a living.
Yeah.
You guys got to get paid.
Yeah.
Anyway, all right. Love you guys. I'll see you.